Yo, what's up, people? It's your boy. I'm Chris Down One, and I'm back with another video. Rate, comment, subscribe. You know what you got to do. Hit that notification bell so you'll know when my next video or live stream goes down. All right. So, I'm not going to really talk too much about the NBA Finals, even though I predicted the two teams, the Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors. Not only I predicted it, I told you in both of those series how it was going to play out, all right? You can check the videos, okay? You can check the videos from previous weeks, okay? We'll talk about that at another time and at another date. But right now we're going to be talking about there's Houston. We have problems, all right? The owner of the Houston Rockets is not too happy, not too pleased, okay? And this is coming from Stephen A. Smith. But actually, when you really think about it, I've been talking about it for several weeks. Bleacher Report, Fox, ESPN. Everyone has been talking about how the owner of the Houston Rockets is not too pleased with what transpired a couple of weeks ago. They lost to the Golden State Warriors with no Kevin Durant and no Boogie Cousins. They lost two of their all-stars, and they pretty much beat them with the original team of the Golden State Warriors of Clay, Steph, and Draymond. And they got exposed, and they couldn't handle it, all right? And they ultimately lost the series. And ever since then, a lot of things have been transpiring, okay? The owner of the Houston Rockets, who is a successor in the restaurant business, a mogul in the restaurant business, is not too happy with what's going on with the Houston Rockets, all right? And ever since they lost that series, which, by the way, they lost the series and last year, and how the Houston Rockets had an scapegoat. We talk about, well, the reason why they lost because Chris Paul was injured, okay? The reason why they lost because they didn't have enough players around James Harden, okay? And this year, they put a lot of players around James Harden. To me, that was questionable, but they still put a lot of decent parts around James Harden. Chris Paul was healthy. Mike D'Antoni, pretty much opening up the playbook, sort of say, for James Harden to explode and erupt. And still, and he had an MVP season of the regular season, but when it comes to the actual playoffs, can I say this correctly? When it really matters the most, they come up short, right? So basically the owner is saying everybody is available, okay, for the Houston Rockets. You can pick anybody from the Houston Rockets if you want to do a trade with the Houston Rockets, okay? And the owner sees the light at the end of the tunnel, and we all see the light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of us saw it before he saw it, okay? And you can't win in today's climate, in today's NBA, with a James Harden who's an ISO player who holds the ball the most, okay? And in this day, in this era, it's teams that beat a couple of individuals, okay? And this has been proven over and over and over. You don't have to go too far back. You can go to the Miami Heat when they had two ISO players. Yeah, they won 2 titles, but they could have won more if they sculptured the team, if they had more players around the Miami Heat. That's why LeBron James left. That's why Dwayne Wade left, okay? Because it was sort of cap strapped in what they could ultimately do when you want to max out Chris Bosh, max out Dwayne Wade, max out LeBron James. When you max out those 3 players, you don't have enough money to make the rest of the parts, to add more pieces to those 3 players. And that's pretty much what's going on and transpiring in Rocket Land. When you max out Chris Paul, when you max out James Harden, okay, And when you got all these other players that they don't have max contracts, but they have contracts that other teams do not want, like an Iman Shumpert, a PJ Tucker, okay, just to name a few. When you have parts that no one else wants and you paid a little bit more for those parts, okay, you're sort of cap strapped, okay? So now everybody's available. Future draft picks, everybody on the team available. Mike D'Antoni, who was trying to negotiate an extension, the Rockets organization said, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to let you play out this last year, which is next season, and then we'll see where the chips fall, which that's a clear indication of a lame duck coach, and they don't have a lot of faith in Mike D'Antoni, and they don't feel like he can do the job. Now, there are reports out there that they might be looking at, man, I had his name for a second there, but then I lost it, for the Tyronn Lue, who was a candidate for the Lakers head coaching job, which I did, I understand the connection because he used to coach LeBron James. He used to play for the Los Angeles Lakers, which, by the way, a lot of people say that that's what's wrong with the Los Angeles Lakers. They hire former players and general managers and office personnel that used to be with the Lakers or they have a lot of family connections, and those family members are now working for the Los Angeles Lakers. But when Tyronn Lue's name comes up as a possible coach for the Lakers, you have all these talking heads like Stephen A. Smith and everybody else talking about, oh, that's a great fit. How is that a great fit? The only time Tyronn Lue has won anything was when he had LeBron James, the best player on the planet at that time, okay? Since then, Tyronn Lue's coaching career is non-existent, okay? It's just the way it is. It is what it is, okay? So, Tyronn Lue's name is popped up and a lot of articles that's probably going to be the successor of Mike D'Antoni. Which, by the way, Tyronn Lue, there was reports surfacing, and even though there was other reports that discredit those reports, that when he was offered the Lakers head coaching job, they gave him less money, less years on the contract, and people thought that the reason why he didn't join them was because he would have been paired up with Jason Kidd, which, by the way, he said he had no problem with Jason Kidd from reports. Okay, so you don't want to pair up, he didn't want to, some people say he didn't want to be paired up with Jason Kidd, and they felt like, well, he's not really picking his own success. He's not picking his own coaching staff. But it's funny how his name comes up. He's not, when it comes to the Rockets head coaching position, okay? And you don't hear a peep from Tyronn Lue talking about, well, currently right now, Mike D'Antoni is the coach. So we should respect that. He is the coach. And let's just let him do his thing with the Houston Rockets. And if the Houston Rockets fire him, then we can go back into this conversation, okay? But you haven't heard a peep from Tyronn Lue. Why? Because Tyronn Lue is interested in that particular job, okay? So, you got all these pieces, okay, that are pieces that the Rockets organization do not want. They don't have a strong belief in. At the end of the day, James Harden, he's great in the regular season. Mike D'Antoni, he's great in the season. These two individuals are going to, destroy the record book in the regular season. But when it matters the most, and when it comes to playoff time, and when shot selection really means the most, and when the games are slowed down, then they run into a wall. And Mike D'Antoni has already been in his resume, okay? Mike D'Antoni was a coach at Phoenix. He wasn't very successful in Phoenix. He wasn't very successful with the he wasn't very successful with the Knicks. Okay, he wasn't very successful with the Lakers. When it comes to James Harden, he wasn't very successful with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, so this has been transpiring for the longest. Okay, damn, that man can park good. I can talk and park at the same goddamn time, like walking and chewing gum at the same goddamn time. Okay, so that's pretty much what's going on, and ultimately they're gonna have to revamp that roster. If the owner is really for real about, if he's serious about chasing a title, you're going to have to add more parts to that. Okay, Chris Paul, you're going to have to get rid of Chris Paul's contract. That's one of the problems. Another problem is, how you going to get rid of Chris Paul's contract when he's older? He's digressing, and there's not a lot of teams out there that wants to trade for Chris Paul. And if you do trade Chris Paul, you're going to get parts that they don't want. Okay, so it's not like you're going to get a blue chipper for Chris Paul. Okay, I feel like Chris Paul at this point in his career, he still is a B- player. Okay, so you got that huge contract that you gave to Chris Paul, plus he's digressing. So you're going to trade him for a couple of C's and maybe a D and an F, okay? So it's not like you're going to trade an A, you're going to get an A for a B. It just doesn't work that way. And they know you're trying to get rid of them, so they're not going to do you any favors. Now, there are reports out there that suggest that there's a possibility he could pair up with LeBron James. But if the Lakers do that deal, they're not going to give up none of their young assets. They're going to give you pieces that they don't want. Okay? And will those pieces, when you cash in those pieces, are those pieces are going to be in the rosters format? I mean, in the Rockets roster and in their future, or are you going to move these pieces for something else later on? Okay, so and then you got all these other contracts that the Rockets have of players that are one-dimensional, they're one-dimensional, but that's all they can do. And it'd be great if there was a one-dimensional player that can shoot, that has a dependable jumper, a jump shot. That's one thing, but they're dependable, and defense is good. I think defense still win you championships. Defense, you need defensive-minded players to get a couple of stops along the way if you want to win, if you want to contend. But at the same time, you also need players that can score. I'm not saying that you have to score 30 or 40 points a night, but you still have to have a consistent shot. And from what I have seen from the Rockets roster, there's not really, a lot of players on that roster that you can constantly depend on when you need a point. I mean, when you need a shot, okay, other than James Harden, all right? So, I feel like it's going to be hard to move Chris Paul, which I feel like ultimately they're going to have to buy Chris Paul out of his contract. I have already talked about this. I feel like with those other parts, you're going to have to trade those other parts in for players that the other teams don't want, okay? But the only piece that anybody's going to give you some great pieces for is James Harden. And from this last article, the owner he's not, he doesn't mind getting rid of James Harden. So that's another live stream for another time. I feel like out of all the pieces that the Rockets have, I feel like that's the only chip that they have on the table that's available that other teams are intrigued in. Okay, now hypothetically, okay, don't kill me on this, but hypothetically, if you could trade James Harden for 4 young, talented players that haven't been proven yet, but they have potential, they have upside? Would you do that trade? Would the Rockets do a trade for James Harden and push him to the Boston Celtics, and the Boston Celtics give you a ton of draft picks plus Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, okay, maybe Terry Rozier? Would you do that trade? I feel like the Boston Celtics will do that trade. Would you, hypothetically, would you trade James Harden, which I don't see it happening, to the Los Angeles Lakers, and in return you get all of their young players, all right, plus a couple of draft picks? Would you do would you do that trade? Okay, so that's all I got for today, guys. Tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. It's your boy. I'm Chris the Don One, and I am out of here.